Part 201. Back to the 60s, The Struggle Career of a Charmed Wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 2001. Hearing Aunt Sue say that there was no gold or jewelry, Su Lei's face suddenly darkened, and he stared at the two elders like he was spitting out a venomous message. No? I don't believe it. What kind of food can you exchange for so much gold and jewelry? You asked me for money, didn't I send it to you? What gold and jewelry would you use if you have money to buy it? Aunt Sue said sadly, with that little money, how many kilograms of grain could you buy at that time? Do you know how many people starved to death? When it was more expensive, coarse grains cost several yuan a kilogram, and fine grains and eggs cost 6 or 7 yuan a kilogram. There are plenty of them, and even if you have money, you may not be able to buy them. If we hadn't risked going to the black market to exchange gold and jewelry for food, how many people do you think we would have survived? Where do you think you have received these grains? You can't get life-saving food in exchange for gold and jewelry, so you die. Now that the times have improved, you have the ability. Seeing that we have been vindicated, you come to ask for gold and jewelry. Where is your humanity? Unsentimental and greedy by nature, his elegant and handsome face when he was young is now like a dried orange peel, full of gloom. Is this really the much respected eldest son of their Su family? Aunt Sue's heart was really cold. I think back then, my first thought when I got the food was to send it to them. What about him? If I were not thinking about the gold and jewelry at home, would I never come back to visit them in my life? Su Lei was furious. What do I need humanity for when I don't have money? People with humanity, can people with humanity survive? I say 1,000 words, but you just don't want to give it, right? How did you become like this? Uncle Su staggered, holding onto a magnolia tree that had not been removed. If I had known that this day would come, it would be better not to have this son. The Su family has a scholarly family background and a very strict upbringing. His ancestors have expelled unworthy descendants from the family, but he did not expect that he would also face a situation where his son's temperament changed drastically. Su Lei said with a ferocious smile, "It is you who have changed, not me. Everything in the Su family should have been inherited by me, the eldest son. Now that you are pushing the envelope, you must want to give it to Su Sen, Su Xin, and the others. Whatever you say, the gold and jewelry have long been replaced by food, and all the family has is this old house they just acquired." Uncle Su waved his hand, looking frustrated. "If you don't give it to me, I'll find it myself." After Su Lei finished speaking, he went straight to the place where the gold was hidden in the old house. Seeing this, Su Jingying glared at the second elder, cursed the old man, and turned to follow her father. Uncle Su and Aunt Su, a couple over 70 years old, smiled bitterly at each other. After their children left, more and more people got into trouble. They moved most of the gold and jewelry out. There were indeed some things in the old house that they had not had time to deal with. They had not had the chance to come to the old house in these years, but yesterday I dug it out and kept it separately. The second old man was very smart. After taking out the things, he even smoothed out all the traces. Su Lei went to several places but couldn't find what he wanted. Instead, he dug up holes in the ground, even digging 3 feet into the ground where he remembered the gold and jewelry were hidden. No? How come there isn't? Did you hide it? Su Lei threw away the iron barb he snatched from Uncle Su's hand and grabbed his collar. Uncle Su reached out and slapped his hand away. "Let go. The old man has been working in the Wangla Brigade for many years and is well fed and clothed. Even though he is old, he is still stronger than the skinny Su Lei." Back to the 60s, The Struggle Career of a Charmed Wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 2002. Seeing that Uncle Su and Aunt Su were not getting along well, Su Jingying's pretty face with rosy whites showed a trace of disgust, and said, "Dad, why haven't you got the gold jewelry yet? Didn't you say you wanted to give away the ruby jewelry? Give me the jade. How can you go home and tell her now? How can we go to Hong Kong without those things? Grandpa and Grandma will certainly not take us. Grandpa and Grandma, Uncle Sue and Aunt Sue gritted their teeth and squeezed out these words. They looked at Sule with cold eyes. They are called old and immortal here. So who are the grandparents in Su Jingying's mouth? Sule was very irritated. If it weren't for Jingying's grandparents, how do you think I could survive safely? People can't be ungrateful, it's just a title. Yes, people can't be ungrateful, but how did you do it? How could your mother and I feel sorry for you? It's a long way, not to mention that you have never visited your relatives. Anyway, you have never been here, and I don't talk to you alone. But what's going on with you? You're hiding everything from us. If you don't have gold and jewelry as your target, will you never come back? Without gold and jewelry, why would I come back? It was you who caused me to be sent to the Northwest. You owe me and you should make up for it with money. I don't need anything except money. I worked hard and finally got the chance to go abroad. I no longer need to be controlled and bullied by this country. Shouldn't you be happy for me and support me strongly? Sule was still confident and did not think about the fact that he had enjoyed all the benefits of the Su family before the disaster, nor did he think about the fact that without his parents, he would not be here. Uncle Su didn't want to argue with him anymore. If you want it, fine, your mother and I will go get it. You guys wait here. I'll go with you. Sule was worried that they would only give him a small part, hiding the big part and sharing it with his second and third brothers. Uncle Su smiled sarcastically, don't think people are as bad as you. He and his wife were old, and although they were quite strong, they still did not dare to risk their lives in a head-on conflict with Sule, so the two elders left their old house, spent 10 cents to get on a rickshaw, and went straight to Zhao Anbang's work unit. Their old house is in a good location and is very close to the government offices. It can be reached in a few minutes. With today's situation, we are not afraid of the family scandal being publicized. Comrade Anbang, please tell the people from the armed forces to drive them out of my house, Uncle Su said in a very firm tone. He really had no hope for his son. Money is a trivial matter, and he was worried that Sule would not let it go and use the connections in his hands to find out about Feng Qingxiu. After all, most of the jewelry he remembered was in Feng Qingxiu's hands, such as ruby jewelry and jade. In the future, the policy relax, those things will definitely come out one day. Once he appears, Sule will definitely be able to see it. I have been living with the Lu family for nearly 20 years, and my life was saved by them. I owe my life to them for taking care of me. The relationship is much deeper than the relationship I have with my children. After all, when the children grew up and were able to support their parents, they went their separate ways, and nothing happened. Honor them. Therefore, the second elder does not want to cause trouble to the good people. After Zhao Anbang heard the whole story, his eyes widened and he slapped the table and said, how can there be such a shameless person in the world? Master and Aunt, you are so good, how come you have such a son? Aunt Sue smiled bitterly, I also want to know whether there is something wrong with our education, or whether people's hearts are changing too quickly. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Back to the 60s, The Struggle Career of a Charmed Wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 2003. After hearing what the old lady said, Zhao Anbang was too embarrassed to attack them anymore, but confirmed again and again, just drive them away. I don't think this can completely solve the problem of him coveting your property. According to the description of the two elders, Sule was obviously unwilling to give up until he got the money. This kind of person is like brown sugar, you can't get rid of him. Uncle Su sighed, We said we didn't have any gold jewelry, but he didn't believe it at all. For a while, I really can't solve it once and for all. His heart was in chaos, and the excitement and joy of being vindicated had all been shattered by Sulei's appearance. And Sue also said, if he can't get the gold and jewelry he wants, he will probably focus on this old house and the tens of thousands of dollars that the country will compensate us. It's evil, it's really evil. When we are in trouble, we have had very little impact on being in a foreign country. We never came to visit us. The letters we sent are probably both true and false. Now that we know that we have been rehabilitated, we are rich, and there is no danger, we are like cats smelling fishy smell. Can't wait to rush over. The old lady was in tears and very sad. This kind of person never knows what shame is. You two know his nature, so don't be too sad. Being sad is not the way to solve the problem. After hearing what Zhao Anbang said, Aunt Sue wiped her tears, then drive them away first. The old man and I will find a place to hide. Anyway, I don't want to see him again. We got through it without him. I'll trouble you again, call Xiaoxiu and ask someone to check Sulei's current situation, when he divorced, when he remarried, when people living in the Northwest have channels to go to Hong Kong, and who are the grandparents his daughter mentioned. Who it is, we all want to know. Uncle Sue continued, perhaps, knowing all this, we can have a solution to Sule. Zhao Anbang nodded, you definitely can't go back to Wanglu Brigade. You can live directly in my house. Ordinary people can't enter the compound where I live. Uncle Sue and Aunt Sue are grateful. Zhao Anbang arranged for people to drive Sule and his daughter out of the Su family mansion, and then called Lu Zhang and asked him to find someone to check Sule. As for Sulei's reaction, Zhao Anbang didn't take it seriously at all. The Northwest was once the territory of Commander Rong, but now it is Huo Biding's territory. It is not easy to track down Sule. Uncle Su told Zhao Anbang everything he knew about Sulei's work unit, and Zhao Anbang naturally related to Lu Zhang. Lu Zhang frowned. He didn't expect Sule, who was in his 50s, to be so calculating and unconcealed. No wonder the two elders were disheartened and didn't want to see him again. I understand. I'll call you if I have any news. After hanging up the phone, Lu Zhang told his wife and the elderly at home about the incident without any modification. Cheng Baoqiu exclaimed, I don't know what to say when this happened to them. Wang Quilin said, I just said that the boss of the Su family is not a good person, his face is too ugly. Everyone in the world is interested in profit, nothing is impossible. Father Lu looked calm, as if he had expected it. Look, those people who have severed ties with their parents and relatives in the past will come back sooner or later to flatter those who they once abandoned. After all, the rehabilitated comrades have been compensated to some extent and their status is not bad. The temperature has cooled down. Yesterday I stayed at my husband's house for the first time. Well, my cold got worse, with fever and cough. Now I'm having guests in the next room over there. During the meal, I had to write something. I'll continue in the afternoon. Back to the 60s, the struggle career of a charmed wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 2004. The results of the investigation came very quickly, beyond everyone's imagination. At the end of February, when Zibao was about to start school, Feng Qingxiu was packing his and Lu Tianzi's bedding and luggage when Lu Zhang received a call from Huo Biding. The person you asked me to investigate is really full of evil, and it's hard to describe. This was Huo Biding's first sentence. Lu Zhang was stunned and quickly asked for details. They thought Sule was ungrateful enough. From what Huo Biding said, Sule seemed to be worse than they knew. As expected, Huo Biding said, he is in the Northwest region, actually in Chang'an. The conditions there are much better than here. Fortunately, an old subordinate of mine transferred there and found out quickly. More than 10 years ago, the daughter of a local authority figure fell in love with him. Sule divorced his wife and became a son-in-law. From then on, he rose through the ranks. His two sons were named Chen and his daughter was Su Jingying. Now, his wife's family is not big. After gaining power, I didn't know what route I took, and my family moved to the southeast region at the end of last year. Lu Zhang frowned deeply. More than 10 years ago, Sule was around 40. Someone was interested in him. Huo Biding smiled, "Don't underestimate me. I heard from my old subordinates that when Sule was in his 30s or 40s, he was a gentle and elegant person with a graceful demeanor." Lu Zhang hummed, "You continue." "Actually, there's not much to say. Sule persecuted people like his parents a lot during the 10 years he was in power, and he unilaterally severed ties with his parents as early as 20 years ago. Otherwise, why do you think his parents didn't affect him?" Lu Zhang was startled. "What? Then he still accepts the food and materials sent to him by the Su family as a matter of course. How can he be shameless?" This matter greatly exceeded their expectations. Huo Biding shrugged, "I have been shameless for a long time. You said he went to his parents for gold and jewelry. I asked someone to check. This man has resigned and disappeared with his daughter. I guess his parents-in-law and his wife and son took the first step, and he and his daughter followed behind. They first asked his parents for gold and jewelry, and planned to escape to the southeast together, where it was easy to sneak into Hong Kong. Why, obviously, they were afraid of revenge. It is said that in those years, the old man named Chen fished in troubled waters and had a lot of gold. Otherwise, how could he have the capital to live in Hong Kong as a poor farmer of 8 generations? Lu Jiang's face showed a hint of gloom. How can national property be allowed to flow out? Even if it does not belong to the country, it should be returned to its original owner. What is the name of the family named Chen and their age and characteristics? I will give it to the Southeast Military Region. Make a call. Well, I heard that in Chang'an City, people from their former unit are looking for them everywhere. They have sent people to the southeast region to recover the gold and jewelry that old man Chen Aguo obtained through power scheming when he was in power. Unfortunately, no one named Chen has been found yet. Family. Huo Biding asked someone to investigate Sule, which was considered a help to his old subordinates, because they were looking for Sule and wanted to get clues from him to find old man Chen. Now, it can be said that Sule himself came to the door. Lu Zhang said in a deep voice, "I immediately notified the Southeast Military Region to pay attention, and also called Anbang to catch Sule and prevent him from escaping. He did not get the gold and jewelry, nor did he get the old house or the national compensation. Currently still in Huihei City. I have a fever and a headache, and I can't bear it anymore. I'll take a nap before typing." Back to the 60s, the struggle career of a charmed wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 2005. If it involves the country, it is no small matter. Although Lu Zhang is not responsible for this matter, he has always put the interests of the country first. If an innocent person goes abroad with his family savings, he will naturally not meddle in other people's affairs. However, this is Chen Aguo plundering the country and even the property of those who were wrongly killed. He cannot. No matter. He hung up Huo Biding's phone neatly and transferred the call to Zhao Anbang. Since it was not working hours, I called his home phone number. Unexpectedly, the person who picked him up was Uncle Su. Lu Zhang pondered again and again, and told him the results of Huo Biding's investigation in detail. "Although Xiaoxiu and I respect you two elders very much, what Sule is involved in is not a trivial matter. I must tell Lao Zhao to seize this opportunity and seize this person, so as not to lose track of Chen Aguo's whereabouts." "What a sin, your aunt is right. My surname is Su. I have no way to teach my son." Knowing that his eldest son had unilaterally severed the relationship with his wife, Uncle Su's already cold heart felt like falling into an ice cave, and he blinked, blinking his sour old eyes. "Comrade Anbang is working overtime. You can call him later. Sule is indeed still in Huihei City. If he doesn't believe that we have run out of gold and jewelry a long time ago, he probably has some gold and jewelry that he can't get. It means getting the house and the compensation money. Lu Zhang felt a little comforted in his heart. What he feared most was that Uncle Su and Aunt Su still chose to cover up his son even though he knew he had committed a crime. In terms of family ties, there are very few people who can be selfless. Okay, I'll call him right away to prevent Sule from running away. Uncle Su snorted. He probably thinks that Huihei City is thousands of miles away from the northwest and southeast, and they don't know each other's information. He doesn't know what he has done in the northwest, and he is still thinking about the fortune he hid back then, so he dares to act so arrogantly. Appeared. He didn't achieve his goal, and he didn't think we knew his details, so he wouldn't leave immediately. That's what I say, it's better to be careful. Only when you have the person in your hands can you feel at ease. Regarding this point, Uncle Su had to admit that Lu Zhang was right. Okay, I won't talk to you anymore. You can talk to Comrade Anbang and deal with him as soon as possible. How many more years can your aunt and I live happily? After hanging up the phone, Uncle Su finally shed tears that he had been holding back for a long time. Seeing her husband's muddy tears rolling down her wrinkled bronze face, Aunt Su felt anxious and hateful. Did Sule do something sinful again? You have been sad for so many days, and you are still so sad now. Uncle Su held her hand that had experienced the same vicissitudes of life and spoke softly, without any concealment. 20 years. It turns out that he has cut off relations with us for 20 years. We only know now that thanks to us, we have missed him and thought about him for these 20 years. If there is any good thing, we should hold on to him first. Good grasp. It's time to catch them. There's a bunch of bad thieves anyway, and our former daughter-in-law and grandson are not among them. Speaking of her former daughter-in-law and grandchildren, Aunt Su was inevitably worried. Have you ever asked for news about them? Are they smuggled into Hong Kong as the girl said, or are they still in the northwest region? Uncle Su slapped his forehead and said, Zhang didn't say anything, so I forgot to ask. Then wait for a while. When Ajiang and Comrade Anbang finished talking about the business, let's call him and ask him carefully. Her son is useless, and Aunt Su's only hope is that her grandchildren will be upright, live a smooth life, and be unworthy of her son. Shameless and despicable. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Back to the 60s, The Struggle Career of a Charmed Wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 2006. Huo Biding found no useful information about Aunt Su, her daughter-in-law, mother and son, and others. Naturally, Lu Zhang didn't know their whereabouts. He only heard Huo Biding tell him that they left together after Sule's wife divorced Sule. When I left Chang'an, the official letter of introduction was to visit relatives in the southeast region, but I never came back. As long as the ingredients are not too bad, family leave is within the regulations. Perhaps, as Su Jingying said, they smuggled themselves into Hong Kong. After hearing what Lu Zhang said, and Su sighed and was very worried. Hong Kong is a colony, so how can it be easy to get along? I only hope that they, mother and son, a few are safe. Lu Zhang thought for a while. I heard from Xiaoxiu that Yunyun will go to the United States to perform with the group next month and will transfer from Hong Kong. She has some connections in Hong Kong. I will ask her to ask someone to help you find out about your daughter-in-law and grandchildren later. What is your name? Aunt Su hurriedly said, my daughter-in-law is called Lu Mingxiang, my eldest baby is named Su Chang'an, my second baby is named Su Changsheng, and my granddaughter is named Su Changxia. They are 48, 22, 20, and 19 years old respectively. My eldest grandson is very old. It's easy to recognize him. He has a mole right under his chin. It was a black mole and was about the size of a sesame seed when he was born. I wonder if it has grown up now. Lu Zhang wrote it down. After Aunt Su hung up the phone, she said to her husband, "My only hope now is that Dabeo will be smarter, and I hope she still has the little gold I brought her." Gold is hard currency and easy to carry. When the eldest son and the second son left home, she gave each of her daughters-in-law a large yellow croaker. In their family, men have always been in charge of outside affairs and women have been in charge of domestic affairs, with women in charge of the family's income and expenditure. As for the youngest son and daughter, there was no chance of bringing gold to them, because the two elders' lives were under surveillance at that time, and their every move was watched. Uncle Su sighed, "Dabeo's mother has always been very smart, otherwise she would not have left Northwest after the divorce." The eldest daughter-in-law of the Su family was also carefully selected by the couple. Her mind and ability were not inferior to Su Lei's. Staying in the Northwest meant staying under the eyes of Su Lei and his new family. Her future life would be difficult. Choosing to leave would be a waste of time. It was a wise move. Their mother and son had both hands and feet, and the children were not too young. No matter where they made a living, they would be better off than in the Northwest. Lu Zhang and Feng Qingxiu didn't know the private conversation between the two elders. They only knew that Zhao Anbang caught Su Lei and Su Jingying, who had no intention of escaping, with a vigorous and resolute manner, and contacted the cotters in charge of this matter in Chang'an City in the Northwest region. The rest happened. It is no longer suitable for them to interfere or inquire. Based on the loving hearts of the two elders, Feng Qingxiu called her sister and said something. Feng Qingyun agreed wholeheartedly, "It won't bother me. Just tell my friends over there in Hong Kong. The security there is worse than in our country. Those without any background can't get along at all. Most of the record companies and film companies are big capital companies, or maybe people in the industry are controlling it. The company that released my records had this kind of background. I was helped by my British classmates, so it was a bit respectable. However, there was a mixed bag there. Sister, don't take it too seriously. There is no hope that many stowaways will be killed there. Do your best and obey fate. Living in this era, many things are unavoidable." Back to the 60s, the struggle career of a charmed wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 2007. Feng Qingxiu is grateful to God all the time because she and her family have lived a smooth and peaceful life. In the face of power, fame, and fortune, the word peace is the most important. Therefore, even though Lu Zhang held a high position and there were only a few people with a higher rank than him, and there were many guards protecting him when traveling, Feng Qingxiu did not dare to let herself and her family rely on their power to be arrogant. The capable person is Lu Zhang. He has used his own dedication to get his current treatment, but his family members are not. We are already quite lucky to live together in a heavily guarded compound, and we cannot take the treatment we enjoy now for granted. When she has time, Feng Qingxiu would rather do more good deeds, gain a good reputation for her husband, set a good example for her children, and establish their correct outlook on life and values, such as the Eagle Spreads Its Wings student aid program. Although Zibao is very young, his thinking ability exceeds that of Feng Qingxiu. On the eve of the start of school, he perfected the plan alone. Apart from shelling out the 50,000 yuan, Feng Qingxiu was not prepared to get involved in this matter. She originally wanted to leave it to Lu Zhang and Zhao Anbang to discuss the details. However, both of their brothers felt that Zibao should be allowed to accumulate life experience, so they all leave it to Zibao, who is only responsible for implementation. The specific conditions for student aid, the amount of student aid, etc. are all determined by Zibao. Zibao called Zhao Anbang and had a good conversation. "I decided to first take the plan and say hello to the cadres of the Ministry of Education. After getting permission, I will implement it in our Huihe city. My main idea is to first let people in the mountain villages receive education and change the situation of favoring sons over daughters. So the student aid program was first carried out in impoverished mountain villages. Although my main purpose was to help girls who did not have access to education due to the feudal mentality that favored boys over girls, there was no way to clearly emphasize the emphasis on helping girls at this time, so I treated everyone equally and helped them first. Students from poor families. Then tell me carefully, how do you want to help them? Zhao Anbang has always been interested in this. He has been interested since he learned about Zibao's plan, and has been waiting for news about Zibao. He had a premonition that the Eagle Spreads Wings student aid program would be of immediate benefit and would serve the future. Zibao said seriously, students who meet the conditions for student aid, regardless of gender, and under the age of 18, as long as they attend school seriously, can receive our tuition and book fees. We do not charge any return. Now that I decided to implement this plan, I never thought about getting anything in return. What about those over 18 years old? Zhao Anbang asked. Actually, you are an adult at the age of 18. You can decide your own life over the age of 18, and you can also find ways to earn the money you need to go to school. And you don't have to pay tuition to go to college. The country also has, generally speaking, you don't need to ask us for help with living subsidies. However, there are exceptions. If the exceptional students are from poor families and meet our student aid conditions, they can still get assistance with tuition and book fees, but they must sign a petition. It is an agreement that when they have achieved financial success, they must pay back the original amount without charging any interest. Zhao Anbang nodded slightly. The rules are very good. Without rules, there will be no success. Especially many people like to take advantage. If you don't set a threshold, they will all want you to pay for their education. That's what I think, good friends and bad friends. Back to the 60s, the struggle career of a charmed wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 2008. Zhao Anbang liked Zibao's thoughtfulness and shrewdness, and then asked, what is eligible? What is not eligible? Maybe many people want to take advantage and lie that they live in poverty and cannot afford tuition. Zibao Bao, don't say you haven't considered this. The poorer and backward the place, the more people like to take advantage. Master Zibao sighed, that's why we came up with the student aid plan. The only way they can take advantage of it is to let all their children go to school. If one child goes to school, it will cost him 5 years a year. They get 5 yuan in free tuition. If 10 children go to school, they get a 50 yuan advantage. Under this idea, girls have a much greater chance of going to school than before. Help is not permanent. The most fundamental solution is to improve their cultural quality and change their thinking. Isn't it the feudal mentality that favors boys over girls? Zhao Anbang raised his thumb, suddenly thinking that Zibao couldn't see it. He couldn't help but laugh. You are right, it makes sense. I have decided to use your entrepreneurial spirit to greatly improve girls' chances of going to school. But you haven't said what kind of situations are eligible. Will anyone fish in troubled waters? 50,000 yuan. It sounds like a lot, a huge sum of money, but it cannot be divided to help everyone. Even if the annual tuition is 5 yuan, it can only help 10,000 people a year. Education cannot be solved by just 1 year of schooling. Elementary school 5 years, junior high school and high school became 3 years, and 4 years of college. Zibao laughed and said, Godfather, you don't think we only have that 50,000 yuan, do you? Isn't it? Zhao Anbang asked back, I guess the salary of your parents is enough for your family's expenses. The savings may not be as much as mine. This 50,000 yuan also belongs to your aunt, right? It belongs to my aunt. My aunt also said that she will continue to inject funds into my student aid plan in the future. This is a charity. Zibao has the support of the whole family. My grandfather gave us. We cannot use the 60,000 yuan from my brothers and sisters at present, and it will depreciate in the future. After our joint discussion, We decided to invest this money in the student aid plan because it will be implemented in Huaihe City first, not nationwide. If I do it on a large scale, I won't be able to use up the money in 3 or 2 years, and I plan to complete the college course in 2 years. When I graduate, I will probably have a way to make money. Zhao Anbang hummed twice. The plan is quite good. It's not an anticlimactic one. I'll give you an investment of 5,000 yuan. Your godfather and I will use all my money to support you. But you still didn't answer my question. Zibao said, of course, only those whose families are extremely poor and cannot pay for school fees are eligible. Who is willing to give money to them if they are well off? It's not like they are incapable. However, if a girl's family is well off but cannot afford, you can also ask us for help if you want to support your family and continue studying. As for the godfather, the problem you are worried about is not a problem at all, because when my father helps the families of the martyrs, he will ask acquaintances near his hometown to check in secretly on a regular basis to ensure that the money goes to the rightful owner. I haven't let my money go to waste for many years. I'm going to ask my dad to borrow some money from former retired and demobilized soldiers. Okay, when do you plan to start? Although the plan cannot be said to be perfect, Zibao is young after all and has plenty of experience, but he has considered the most important issues. As a parent, he will naturally support it first, and as for imperfection, every place can be improved one by one. Zibao said without hesitation, starting from this year, but I have to wait until I finish signing up. My throat is so swollen that I can no longer swallow, and my body temperature finally came down. It's super cold at home, it's snowing, and it's getting worse. I slipped when I went to the toilet and fell directly onto my arm. I can only get a little better in the past 2 days. La, woo woo. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Back to the 60s, The Struggle Career of a Charmed Wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 2009. Students who took the college entrance examination in 1977 entered school in the spring of 1978, usually in late February or early March. The weather at this time has begun to get warmer. Although there is still a sense of uncertainty in the air, it is much stronger than the ice and snow last year. Lu Tianzi and Zibao went to Capital University to report together. The two brothers unanimously rejected the proposal of Lu's father and Cheng Baokyo to send them to register. Just kidding, they are not young anymore, and they are not babies. How can their parents follow them every step of the way? The classmates would laugh to death when they see them, especially Lu Tianzi, who is already in his 20s. Feng Qingxiu smiled and said, if you don't let your grandpa follow, I'll take you to the head office, right? She raised her hand to stop her son and nephew from speaking, and said sternly, I'm not here to see you off. I'll take advantage of today's rest to visit some old professors who have resumed their work. Lu Tianzi and Zibao were speechless. There was no objection, Feng Qingxiu walked with them happily. Their family has a car allocated by Lu Zhang, or a new hunky car, which is not as prone to breaking down as before. However, they are only going to school and feel it is not appropriate to be public, so they did not let the security guard drive them to school, but squeezed into the bus with others. There is a lot of luggage including bedding, clothes, shoes and socks, books and stationery, thermos bottles, wash basins, and other daily necessities. Even according to the way the troops are packed, it still seems to be a lot. By the time they get to school, they are mentally balanced. Others have more baggage than they do. Not only that, there are many people who are bringing their families with them. When they register in the law department, they see a big man in front of Zibao, with a little boy of 2 or 3 years old sitting on his shoulders, holding a child in his hand. The little girl of 6 or 7 years old had a lot of luggage thrown aside by him. This big man has a burly build, a square face and a broad mouth. He doesn't look like a 30-year-old man, but more like a 34 or 5-year-old man. Sister, who are you three signing up for? The big man had nothing to do and turned around to chat with them. He spoke fluently, with a loud voice and a unique boldness. Guess, Feng Qingxiu smiled, took out a handful of toffee from his pocket and handed it to his two children. The two children suddenly smiled and narrowed their eyes. Thank you, Aunt. The big man looked at Feng Qingxiu, Lu Tianzi, and Zibao, and finally decided to tell the truth. You all seem to be knowledgeable and educated people with good family conditions, because you don't have any clothes, but I can't guess who you signed up for. Feng Qingxiu was happy when she heard that, and pointed at Zibao with a smile. My son, I signed up for my son. He is a student of the law department. My nephew was also admitted to Capital University, not the law department. As for me, you are too old and you are a worker, peasant and soldier student, so you have to change your name from girl to eldest sister. The big man couldn't help but widen his eyes and mouth. What? Sister? I am 36 this year. The big man shook his head and said, it's really not like that. My mother-in-law sent my eldest son to register. She is 34 years old, but she looks much older than you. At this point, he suddenly closed his mouth and looked around. He was relieved when he found that no one was paying attention to their conversation, and then laughed. I mean, eldest sister, you really don't look like someone in their 30s. I thought you were 20 at most duo, and the two young men are siblings. Who knew they were mother and son? The three mothers noticed something strange in the big man's words from the beginning, and they were even more sure after seeing the big man's demeanor and concealing words. Back to the 60s, the struggle career of a charmed wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 2010. Seeing their expressions, the big man chuckled. Don't worry, eldest sister, we are both studying in the law department. I am so much older, so I will definitely take good care of your son. That's good. My son is young. He hasn't left his family much since he was a child. I'm worried that he can't take care of himself. Feng Qingxiu had to respond. By the way, my son's name is Lu Tianmao. What's your surname? The big man said without hesitation. My name is Ma Dazwang. Then, he opened his eyes again. Lu Tianmao. Lu Tianmao? That Lu Tianmao who only deducted 6 points or 4 points from the college entrance examination. The author of essential materials for the college entrance examination? Ouch, I don't know what to say. My eldest son and I were admitted to university based on your set of books. It was my son who reviewed, and I followed, studied, and finally got admitted to Capital University. I applied for Capital University randomly at that time, although my score was I'm only half as good as you, but everyone in my hometown says there's smoke coming out of my old Ma family's ancestral grave. Zibao said modestly, I don't dare to take it. I don't take it? The so-called college entrance examination materials are just picking up people's wisdom. It is not my fault alone. Ma Dazwang let go of his daughter's hand and shook Zibao's heart enthusiastically. No, 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 little brother, don't be humble. No matter how modest you are, you can't cover up your extraordinary talent. You have perfect scores in science, my eldest son. I admire you so much. If I have time another day, I will definitely let him toast you. Feng Qingxiu said hurriedly, my son is only 16, so he is young. Don't let him drink. My eldest son is also 16 this year. Like me, a blind cat meets a dead rat. He passed the test with low scores, obeyed the deployment, and went to the medical university in Shanghai. Ma Dazwang came casually, and his words were full of them. The fact that the two of us are lucky. Feng Qingxiu smiled. If you don't have good grades, you won't be able to go to college just by luck. No, 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 sister, You don't know something? Ma Dazwang shook his head like a rattle. Don't think I got into college because I didn't get high scores. In fact, there are many people who got over 100 points higher than me and were not admitted. Yes, I don't know what the situation is. I heard that some people in Shanghai were admitted with 180 points, and some were not admitted with more than 300 points. Do you think it's strange? Feng Qingxiu thought for a while, and finally recalled some memories of this aspect in her previous life. The country must have something to say, and it is impossible to just let the candidates with better scores be buried. She remembered that major colleges and universities seemed to have expanded their enrollment this spring, and the students included in the expansion were the students with good grades who had not been admitted. As for the specific time, she couldn't remember. Ma Dazwang nodded. The country must not be indifferent. The test scores of others who failed are much higher than mine. Auntie, are you serious? Feng Qingxiu turned to look at Lu Tianzi who was speaking, and nodded slightly. It's almost the same. Lu Tianzi said happily, that's great. Before I returned to Beijing, I heard that there were candidates in our brigade who had high scores but were not admitted. They were almost depressed. Those with low scores were admitted, while those with high scores failed. I feel uncomfortable no matter what I think about it. Even if the enrollment is expanded, not everyone can be selected, Feng Qingxiu said pertinently. Rather than waiting for an uncertain hope, it is better to fight for the college entrance examination again. Lu Tianzi nodded, yes. Ma Dazwang still wanted to chat with them, but it turned out that it was his turn to sign up, so he could only sign up first and put aside the unfinished topic.